pleasure of kicking off this session by introducing Jeannie Keating. And Jeannie is a mathematics coach from West Pine Middle School in Broward County, Florida. Prior to becoming an academic coach, she taught struggling learners in all grade levels of her middle school. And her mantra is, the only thing that limits you is you. This mantra was born out of experience. And so I'm going to turn it over now and let Jeannie share her experience and her wisdom with us this morning. So thank you and welcome to all.
Good morning. Can everyone hear me? If you can just give a good thumbs up. Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and share the PowerPoint just so that you all can follow along where I'm going, I think. We'll see if this works. And there we go. All right, so as I said, my mantra is the only thing that limits you is you. And unfortunately, I learned that a little bit late in life. So that's why I kind of made it my mantra and I just keep sharing it. I became a teacher later. I took my first college class at 50 because at the time that I was in school growing up, they tracked you and you were either considered college bound or you were not. And I was told and I believed my whole life that I was not college material. It took one person to change that, who insisted that I needed to take a class and just keep going. And if I ever was unsuccessful in a class, he would pay for the class and I didn't have to go any further. I got my associate's degree with a 4.0. I got my BS with a 4.0, and truly it was a BS, but that was okay. And I got my master's from the University of Florida with highest honors. And so I realized that I was the one who had limited myself my whole life. And I don't want my students to do that. So I try to come alongside those kids. And that's why I've stayed in the world of struggling learners. That, and I'm pretty sure some of the high achievers are smarter than me. But so I've stayed with the strugglers and I have tried to help them see that they're what's holding them back. And so that's my message to anyone. I'm going to ask you a question. If you can put your response in the chat, that would be amazing. I'm always interested in knowing, what would you attempt if you knew you could not fail? What would you attempt? Go ahead and give me some of your answers. Jamie, can you tell me if we have some activity there? Do we get some good, what kind of things are out there?
We have some good ones. We have dancing, starting our own businesses, playing the piano, singing, a professional Dungeons and Dragons player, Broadway, pro golf, more singing, maybe writing a book.
Okay, you know what? Those are all so doable. They are all so doable. And important message, this is not your practice life. This is it. Do it. Whatever you think, whatever it is, do it. You know, we're not looking for perfection. We're looking for progress. Do it. So anybody ever have a student that kind of looks like that? Or do you encounter some of these things? Lack of initiative, lack of perseverance, lack of retention. I taught you this yesterday, child. I'm sorry, I can't teach it to you again today. An aversion to word problems. Those are usually the kids that think they're not math kids. And so if you start telling them, this is a really good mystery story, and you have to find the clues and you have to solve the mystery. How about an eagerness for formulas? And some people go, well, why is that a bad thing? Your brain can only hold so much. If they don't know where the formula came from, they are pretty stuck. And how about that rote memorization with little understanding? If you encounter this and want to tell you wholeheartedly, there's hope. And for my students, for me, that hope came in the form of ST Math. My district, I'm at Broward County Schools, and we're the sixth largest district in the country. We're the second largest district in the state of Florida. So they have resources and they throw programs at us all the time. We had iReady before this, we had something before that, and something else before that. And whereby they all worked, if practiced with fidelity. ST Math works, I'm going to say, even without that fidelity. And ST Math gets the student engagement. It's a video game, it's solving puzzles, it's literally playing while you learn. So it bridges the gap and makes math possible. So often I hear kids say, I'll say, I serve in IS every day for an hour. And so I'll ask kids, do you have any homework? Do you have any work to do? Oh, I have to do 10 word problems or something along those lines. And I'm like, so what's the goal? Well, I have to get them done. And I want to tell you that that shouldn't be the goal. It's not solving X number of problems, but rather thinking your way through the problem. If I would much rather have a kid have a paper in front of him where they've tried this and they've tried that, and you can see that they are putting forth thought, trying to get that metacognition, I would much rather have that than somebody who just has a bunch of answers because they're thinking their way through it. I tell the kids all the time, when you don't know what to do something. Your brain will follow, but very often they just sit there and stare. And that's one of the cool things about ST Math. Just do something. I don't know what to do. Okay, but press the green arrow and let's see what Gigi does. And based on what Gigi does, let's try and figure out what you're supposed to do. So, what does thinking look like in your classroom? It's another chance for you to get something off your chest in the chat. What does thinking look like in your classroom? And I know I've been in a classroom. I've been in a Title I school classroom. I've worked with those struggling learners. And some of you are going to say, I don't know, I don't ever see thinking. I feel you. I feel you. But try and think, what does thinking look like in your classroom? When they come in for those glorified observations that we all love, and they first thing they hit on is, what are the students doing? What does thinking look like? What do we have, Jamie?
We have writing it out and drawing, talking about it, open-ended questions, a lot of questions and wonderings,
Okay.
sharing with each other, listening and explaining, drawing pictures, proving and justifying, and making mistakes.
Those are great. I'm right there with the drawing pictures one too. I draw pictures all the time. I draw out what the scenario is and everything like that. So you guys have some good thinking going on in the classroom. And so many of those things work so well into ST Math because what I do with the kids is, if somebody's stuck on a puzzle, I just pull the kid next to him and say, hey, help him out. What do you think? What can we do? Talk about it, and I stand back and listen. So, unfortunately, in a lot of classrooms, math looks like procedural rote processes. Okay. Um, the kids are following steps. Step 1, step 2, step 3. But what happens when you forget a step? What happens when you get them out of order? Um, what happens if they can't remember what the next step is? versus conceptual understanding, which is the thinking classroom. And that's Gigi. Okay. Kids are reasoning their way through the problems. If the area of a rectangle is found by multiplying two sides and a triangle's half of a rectangle, then I just divide what I got by 2. See, I don't have to have a formula. I just have to understand what I'm trying to do. ST Math has students think their way through. Students problem solve when they're on the ST Math. And the beautiful thing is that they learn the skill and they carry it across curriculum lines into other subject areas. They learn to problem solve. Problem solving isn't just for math, but sometimes it gets pigeonholed there. And so when they've learned this skill of looking at it, breaking it down, thinking about it, talking about it, getting input, oh, that's what my social studies tried to get me to do in civics class. Oh, that's what my language arts teacher wants me to do when I write an essay. So, yeah, ST Math is the math program, but it reaches across to other curriculum. So today we're going to look at 4 points. We're going to talk about building a positive foundation. We're going to talk about celebrating the bejeebies out of their progress, how to empower your students, and how to foster fun. Positive foundation. I know that I've never taught in an elementary school. God bless those people. I could never teach in an elementary school. But I know that sometimes elementary school teachers, because they have to teach all subjects, are not quite as comfortable with that upper level math. I was in Tennessee visiting schools recently, and I was so excited to see a number of those schools departmentalizing math. And oh, yeah, our kids up to 3rd grade, they're all subjects with one teacher, but after 4th and 5th, they have a math teacher. And I'm like, oh, this is amazing. This is great. And so when they're not departmentalized, kids come into middle school and they are already defeated. They are already, I can't do this, and they're just, they've given up. It's really sad to see a 10-year-old who's given up, and I see them every year. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the struggling learners, because struggling learners are like toddlers. Toddlers can't do a lot for themselves, can they? I mean, some of them try. They toddle, they fall, they get up, but putting their pulling their big girl or big boy pants back up or putting their shoes on, they can't do a lot. But if you want them to keep trying, I mean, as a parent, I remember the easiest thing to do is just do it for them. I could do it for them. I could be done. I'm out the door. This is great, but they're not going to learn how to do it. So you got to let your struggling learners struggle. You've got to let them do it. And so they're like toddlers. And how did you motivate that toddler? You celebrated. You found something that you could compliment. Oh my goodness, your bows on your shoe are the same size today. That's just amazing. We do not ever mention that their shoes are on their feet backwards or the wrong feet. We just focus on that the bows are so good today. That's what you got to do with your struggling learners. And then we're going to talk about building resilience, empowering them, making those kids lifelong learners, and then fostering fun. There's a whole movement about SEL, and if any generation needed it, this one does. But I'm going to tell you that your math time should not be the reason kids need SEL. It should be their SEL. And solving puzzles with Gigi couldn't be that. All right. So this might be the last one. Go back to that chat and finish the sentence. Math is blank. Math is blank.
So we have hard, fun, everywhere all the time.
Yeah.
Transforming, my favorite. The best part of the day, an opportunity, patterns.
Wow, those are all super positive. I don't usually get those answers. I get things like it's a struggle, it's a mystery. Um, I tell kids that math is like an onion. And then I quickly tell them it's not because it makes me cry, although it has. Math is about layers and layers and layers. And if you really think about it, guys, you're not learning that many new concepts every year. Do you do fractions every year? Yeah. Do you do decimals every year? Yeah. Do you, it's the layers and you keep building them and making them thicker and stronger. And if you want really good onion rings, you got to find the right onion. All right. You got to build those thick, thick onion rings. All right, so let's talk about building a positive foundation. I love Henry Ford because it's reported that he said, whether you believe you can or believe you cannot, you are correct. And I must have really instilled that into my own children. My children are 28 and 31. And my son and I have a little side business that I work on the weekends for us. And there was one day that the weather was particularly horrible, and it was like in the 40s. I'm in South Florida. We don't do 40s. And it was windy and it was just nasty. And I still got out. Went to the farmer's market. I'm like setting up, and I get a call from him, and he's got this positive spirit. Yeah, because he's still home under the blanket, I'm sure. And, but he goes, we're going to get a boat today, mom, because that's his way of saying, we're going to make a lot of money. And that's the marker there. And I go, dude, it's 44 degrees. The wind is howling and there are no people. We're not getting a boat. And he says, well, not with that attitude, mom. And I went, all righty. Yeah, I get quoted that all the time. Not with that attitude, mom. Not with that attitude. So you try to convince your children that they preset themselves for success or failure. And, whether they believe they can or they believe they can't, they're going to be correct. When I work with the kids one on one, especially tutoring or when I get them assigned them through RTI, I will say to them, tell me something you're good at in math. And I will get nothing. And I'll go, oh, what's 2 plus 2? 4. Oh, what's 20 plus 20? 40. I said, oh, you're pretty good at adding. All right. And then I move them up the scale a little bit. What did I just do? I just proved that you're good at something. Find where they are and meet them there individually. Take the time to listen to them. In many cases, they are not ready to be helped. So you're going to have to tread a little lightly. Don't do a lot of talking. Put them on ST Math. Let them do a few puzzles. And then after a little bit, go, hey, do you realize you're doing math? That stuff you're not good at. Look at how far you got. Build it up that way. Eliminate the self-talk. I like a lot of things that Dweck has to say, but my favorite is the power of yet. And we have a little boy here. Oh my God. He's the PTO president's son. And the first thing he will say to you, if he knows that you're any way at all connected to math, or if he's in his math classroom and the principal comes in, he will immediately put his hand up and say, I'm not good at multiplying and dividing. I've heard this child say that over and over and over. And he's not one of the kids that I get to work with, but it breaks my heart because all you got to say is, yet. I'm going to be, but I have to stop using this as an excuse and turn it into a reason to try harder. And that's one of the reasons I like the game aspect of ST Math, because kids are all into video games. And I'll say, so when you get a new game, um, and you're not good at it, what do you do? Oh, I play more of it. And I'm like, awesome. So let's talk about this skill in math. And oh, I'm not good at that. And I said, I know. So I'm going to go into ST Math and I'm going to assign you some specific puzzles that deal with that so that you can get better. What do you think? It works. Um, Visual accountability is also good. So helping them track their success. Um, I don't know about you guys, but I can convince myself that I did not have very much candy today. I have a jar. It has, you can write on it, and I put one piece, and then I had to go back and put the word a day, and it's in the kitchen cabinet. And so I I still would justify I needed another piece, I whatever. So I ended up putting a Post-it there. And every time I take a piece of candy, I put a marker on the Post-it. That visual accountability. Talk in terms of results, not goals. With goals, you might make your goal, you might not make your goal. It's okay to not make your goal. You got further than you did before. But with results, you own that. That's your power. I can make that result happen. At the end of the week, I want to have 120 minutes of ST Math. Okay, how am I going to do that? I'm going to break it apart this many days. I know I get it in class, then this many days I'm going to do it at home. That's doable. That's a result. That's the result you're going to see. And it makes it, again, more concrete to the students as opposed to doing goals. There are a bunch of charts on the ST Math site that are actually those tracking charts where you can see what you've done, and it's undeniable. You know, I was on for this many minutes, I was on for that many minutes, I solved this many puzzles. So that's a good thing to check out, and I'm sure that either Jamie or Chris would be able to put a link up for you guys to find those charts. They call them goals. It's okay. And then celebrate the progress, because that's what we're looking for. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. You're not gonna, you're not gonna get there all at once. So you strive for progress, not perfection. And these are some of the things that I handed out last year to my kids. We did it at the end of the year. And because when a struggling student succeeds, everybody needs to know it. When I'm in the classroom and I have kids working on ST Math, I will say, I'll walk around and I'll be watching them, and I'll see, ironically, some of the some of the kids who are more proficient in math are having trouble with something, and I pay attention to who's doing what, and so I can see like one of my little strugglers over here on the side, and I'll say, "Hey, go sit next to Billy and see if you can help him figure out his puzzle." And the struggler goes over and kind of says, "Hey, need any help?" Other kids going, "Yeah, I just can't figure out what I'm supposed to do, da 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 da." And then Billy goes, "Oh, I did this one last week. Do this, try this." You know what it's trying to get you to see is that, and this kid guides the more proficient student. The kid gets the puzzle. "Man, how did you figure that out? That's awesome." And then everybody's like cheering my struggler. And that has elevated him in the eyes of his peer. Because let's face it, everybody knows who is the one that's kind of holding back a little bit back there. And everybody knows. So I have the world's best principal. I'm sorry if you think you do. Mine wins. And he is amazing. He knows all the kids. He knows all the kids by name. Not necessarily by name. I take that back. He'll say to me, pull them up. I want to see who they are. Oh, yeah, I know that one. And he starts telling me stuff I don't even know about the kids, right? And so if I get a kid who has done really, really well, I'll go in with my, "Oh, this is what he's been able to do. my principal, call him down here. And he gives him his own little swag bag of stuff. Okay. Um, Share with other teachers. If you're in a middle school, they have 4 or 5 other teachers. Make sure they know. I tell security because, like I said, I work with the strugglers. Everybody knows who these kids are. They get in trouble all the time. I tell security, hey, so and so, this has been we've been trying to get 120 minutes a week, and he hit it this week. Half his class didn't hit it. He hit it. Next time security sees him, daps him, really proud of you, buddy. That's a good job. Tell the clerical staff, they know these kids. They're handing in forms. Tell the guidance counselors, and for goodness sake, tell the parent. I had a practice when I had my own classes, and that is if I had to sit down and make phone calls for bad behavior, I would make a good behavior call for every 2 bad, because then I left on a better note and other kids. So the next day, the kid would come in and go, "You called my mom last night, Miss Keating." And I go, "Yes, I did. Did she give you the extra dessert I told her she should give you?" And they kind of laugh and say, "No, she gave me $2 instead." And I'm like, "Hey, that's a win." And everybody else is going, "Why did you, what happened here?" And I was like, "Well, I, you know." So when they succeed, when they do it right, parents want to hear that too. Certificates, again, ST Math site has some amazing certificates. You can do it for like the proficiency side, but you can also do it just, there are markers all the way. It's like, yeah, I hit my goal and, yeah, I got close, but it's, they have a whole variety of them, and I know they'll share those with them. You can also do school-wide recognition, morning announcements, PTA. You want your parents to motivate their kids to do their ST Math? Have it mentioned at PTA. So and so's son is the ST Math kid of the week. Yeah, everybody's going to be on it next week. They just are. We have a school marquee, and we can put stuff out on the marquee too. End of the year recognition, A, be honor roll, A, this, B, that, teachers' choice, principal's choice. Yeah, ST Math champion. I'm going to tell you, it's probably going to be one of your strugglers, and that may make that kid's year. So this is a little image of the certificates that I use. It's certificate of recognition, and that was last year right before I handed them all out. Empowering your students. We need to understand that student growth is mainly attributable to them and minimally attributable to us. At least that's how it should be. Just like your parenting skills, where you're trying to raise your child to no longer need you and, you step back, kind of the I must decrease, he must increase kind of philosophy. Well, that needs to be what you do as a teacher. Work yourself out of a job for that year with those kids and make sure that their success is on them, not on you. For one thing, it's too much for a teacher to carry, especially if they're not successful. So and the key to that is engagement. Okay, because engagement, well, I did that backwards. Sorry. Engagement is more about what you can do for your students. I've got them engaged in this activity. I've got them doing this. I've got them doing that. Try empowering them, because that's helping them to figure out what they can do for themselves. That's where your lifelong learners come in. That's where they don't need you. They like you. They're glad you're there. They appreciate your leadership. They appreciate you bringing them to the, and I get that with some of the kids now when I'll go by and I can see they're stuck on a puzzle, and I'll go, "Do you want me to give you unlimited lives just for this puzzle?" No. I'm like, "What?" "No, I'm going to get this on my own." And I'm like, "Okay, I'll step back. You got this." Um, you have your kids share and help each other, Uh, I've learned that a lot of math teachers are not as comfortable with ST Math as they were maybe with another program, because they don't know how to solve the puzzle. Guess what? Neither do I. And that's the whole beauty of it. You show your vulnerability to the kids. They'll bring me a puzzle, and sometimes I won't know how to do it, and I'll hold the thing up and I'll go, "Who knows how to do this one? I'm lost, guys." somebody will step up and say, I know, or we'll put it on the projector, put it up on the board, and everybody will contribute to it. And we become a community centered around Gigi and making Gigi's quest successful. And I think that's one of the reasons that I'm super in love with ST Math is because I've always struggled in math. And I had to come to the point where I was comfortable with struggling. And and it's okay to struggle because probably 90% of my students do, and it made me much more relatable to them. So, as I said before, often the kids with the weaker math skills do better than the ones with the stronger ones because they're not looking for the formula. They're not looking for the steps. They're just looking for the solution. And then they can go back and reflect on that. There's another form that's on the ST Math site where it has you say, I think it's 2 things you learned from this lesson and something that you're still, struggling with or something. That was a super good one because you got to build that reflection in for the kids. So use those reflection logs with them and work yourself out of a job. They have a lot of really good data on the site, and you can sit down and do those individual conferences that your administration's really thrilled about telling you have to do anyways. Well, this is great. I can sit down with my kids and do this. I can sit down and look at the data we do PM1, PM2, and then at the end of the year, PM3. I saw the rise in teacher data because I can see which teachers are really doing this faithfully. And I would go in and I would look at their students and I would go, oh, yep, they were a level 1. They're now a level 2. They were a level 2. They're now a level 3. Yeah, the teacher's a good teacher, but ST Math is the best reinforcer that they will get. So use the data and help them track it. Stop having it all depend on you if that's where you are. Because I still have the teachers who sit there and solve the problems on the boards and tell the kids to take notes. You must decrease, they must increase. And our final point for today is to foster fun. When it's fun, the battle's won. So start those weekly competitions in your own classes. Stretch it out to monthly competitions with the other teachers, other grade levels. And teachers are competitive. You're not going to have trouble getting those teachers to buy into that. 15-minute warm up, 15-minute wrap up. ST Math is like exercise. You know how much we all love exercise. So you got to go in with the 15-minute warm up and then a 15-minute cool down. One or the other. Do wacky days. Most schools I've ever been in have, like they have certain days you wear certain shirts or you do this or you do that. We walk our kids to lunch. All right. Well, today, line up, walk like a penguin to the cafeteria. Let's see who's got the best. We have people out like taking a little video of the classes walking in their line like penguins. Which class won the penguin walk to lunch today? Or go with Gigi jokes. We have an assistant principal here who is the consummate dad joke guy. So he loves this part of it. Where do penguins keep their savings? Where do penguins keep their savings? Any ideas? I'm looking at the chat. We're still on 77. Where do penguins keep their savings? Oh, got one try. They keep their savings in the snowbank. Yuck, 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 yuck. Okay. When I meet new people, I always talk about my giant pet penguin. Do you know why? Because it's a great icebreaker. Okay. You guys have the idea. So if you need penguin jokes, I am not kidding you. You can literally Google it. And there are penguin jokes out there. So, we change it and we call them GGs, but don't let math become the drudgery. Don't let math become what kids don't like. They already don't like it. So you got to turn that around and make it fun. Take off the pressure. When kids are stressed, part of their brain shuts down, that creative side. And if you want them to learn to conceptually solve math, They have to have that creative side working. They can't be in fight or flight. So that's what they need to reason creatively.